Howdy there once again, YouTube. My name is Ben Ferraiuolo, and I'm a beginner amateur seismologist who hopes to make a career out of what I love to do the most, monitoring potential volcanic and tectonic hazard areas. Now, real quick, I just uploaded a video earlier today, or if I'm not able to upload this video I'm making right now tonight, that would be yesterday. My most previous video is about there was an earthquake swarm under Mammoth Mountain, right next to Long Valley Caldera. So go check that out. I don't know where the swarm is right now, but it should still be going on, because it was a very interesting swarm, guys. The largest so far was, I think, a 2.2, but that could have changed by now. Now, I've made some changes to my website, which you can see in, of course, my most recent video that talked about Long Valley Caldera and the swarm in Mammoth Mountain. I also talked about my website, so please go check out my most recent video. A link to my website is on screen here, and is also beneath my email address in the description box below. Also, please check out Scott's new channel called the NW Geology Guy. He has some great content and has talked about some really cool things, including the Seattle fault line and volcanic activity in Portland, Oregon. Now, here's the streaming webcam for Old Faithful Geyser in the Upper Geyser Basin, which resides far south of Norris Geyser Basin and west of the Westham Geyser Basin. In this video, I will not spend much time on Yellowstone. I have taken a preliminary look at the recent long-distance vibration that created such a large increase in background micro-seisms that it looked like the whole country was shaking for a whole day. Now, this has happened a few times since I first discovered it in November of 2017, last year. However, this event was the strongest out of all the events I have studied. Now, there are many theories that I have on the cause of this event. One of the theories is that large, huge waves on the west coast of the United States, or somewhere else, possibly on the east coast of the United States, or as you will see in a second, and the northeastern coast of Canada, created these microseisms. Another is a new type of slow slip movement of both the subducting Juan de Fuca plate and the main North American plate. I don't know. Could be, but I don't know. Now, both of these theories do have some traction, but both of these theories do have some major problems. I will focus on the oceanic wave theory right now. Of course, I have a few other theories, but for me, these are the top two, and who knows, maybe one is causing another. I did find a very interesting publication, though. Here is a publication in the Bulletin of the Seismological Society of America. Now, notice how it says, check this out, that the seismic publication was issued all the way back in 1931. 1931, guys. Well, how could that be? Did they really have seismometers back then? And by the way, the word seismograph is also another word for seismometer. Seismograph, seismometer, seismic instrument, those three terms are all the same thing. Well, how could that be? Again, do they really have seismographs back then? Yes, they did. Now, check this out. Check this out. Take a look here. And this is a trustworthy source, guys. This is from Michigan Tech University. The first seismograph was invented in the year 132 AD. Yes, 132 AD. Holy crap, guys. I literally just found this out yesterday. They have been around for a little less than 2,000 years, invented just 132 years after Jesus Christ was born. It was invented by a Chinese astronomer and mathematician named Chang Hen. Isn't that crazy? I didn't know any of this until just yesterday. But you know, it probably wasn't until just the past few hundred years that seismographs were actually discovered to be quite amazing. Look at this. He called it an earthquake weathercock. Each of the 8 dragons had a bronze ball in its mouth. You can see they hang by strings. Yeah, 132 AD, guys. Wow. Here we are back at the publication from 1931. Why don't we read what this has to say? First off, you could read this part. I will leave a link to this, of course, below in the description box. I'm not really going to read this because the abstract above gives a good idea of what we're going to be talking about. But look at this. Linko was the first person who tried to use seismograms to predict storms. So guys, in 1931, before they had radar and all the high-tech stuff that they have nowadays to monitor weather patterns and predict storms, well, they were going to first use seismograms to predict storms. Isn't that crazy? But let's check this out. The microseisms in North America show, in generally the same peculiarities that they show in other regions, especially in Europe. That was a tongue twister. Now, when there is a storm near the coast, we find short waves which are more or less irregular and which have periods between 1/2 and several seconds. At more distant stations, the periods are in general between 4 and 9 seconds. Now, in retrospect, guys, the microseisms, the strange vibration that is being felt across the whole nation that happened on Thanksgiving, does have a period of waveform oscillations, a period of about 4 to 9 seconds. So it seems to be the same thing that they're talking about, but there are some major problems with the wave theory. Check this out. Now, the amplitudes are influenced by the subsoil. The stations at Milwaukee and Chicago, United States Coast and Geodetic Survey, especially show larger amplitudes than other stations. These larger movements may be caused by the moist nature of the soil near Lake Michigan. The smallest microseisms were found at Tucson, or is it Tucson? Is it Tucson or Tucson? I think it's Tucson. I don't know. The subsoil there is sand or loose gravel. To eliminate the effect of the subsoil and of errors in the magnification of the instruments, the mean maximum of 4 time intervals was taken as the unit at every station. Now, that's really nothing to pay attention to, guys. You'll see what's very... Now, there's some major problems to this theory, and you'll see that in just a second. It's very interesting how this could be caused by ocean waves, but how is it showing behind mountain ranges? Check this out. Amplitudes measured in these units are called relative amplitudes. If one draws maps with these relative amplitudes at the different stations, one finds that the lowest values cover one region and the highest values another. Figure 4, I'm not showing it right now, shows the values and lines of equal relative amplitudes on 4 different dates, blah, blah, blah. The lines could be drawn on very roughly as the values, blah, 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 blah. I don't care about the maps. Where'd it go? The distribution of the areas with large microseisms, large vibrations, depends upon the position of the low pressure area in the following manner. Low pressure areas approaching the west coast of North America cause an increase in microseisms near the region where they approach the coast. These movements are not propagated very far along the coast nor perpendicular to it. At the stations in the center of the continent, like near Wyoming, South Dakota, Kansas, there is sometimes a slight increase of motion. Storms in low-pressure areas over the central parts of the continent do not cause microseisms at all. Also, when they reach the coast of the Atlantic in the southern or Middle East, no microseisms or only local motions arise. But as soon as they approach this coast in the north, microseisms increase over the entire continent, especially if the depressions have steep gradients and cause storms against the coast of Newfoundland and Canada, which is actually what we did see during this time period. But there are a few problems in the way, guys. So we find that, just as in Europe, surf due to storm against steep rocky coasts is the cause of the microseisms with periods of 4 to 9 seconds. Also, just as in Eurasia, where the movements are propagated best if the Scandinavian shield is shaken, we find the largest area with large microseisms if the Canadian shield is shaken by the storm surf. In Europe, the young mountains in the south cause rather rapid decrease in motion. Listen to this. In Western America, the higher folded mountains nearly prevent the propagation of the movements, which means that it almost completely dissipates these microseisms. Again, in Western America, the higher folded mountains, or mountain ranges, nearly prevent the propagation of the movements by reflecting and refracting a large part of the energy. Okay, so seismic stations right behind mountain ranges shouldn't really be seeing it much, right? So then that means, let's say, that the storm surface was coming from Newfoundland or the northeastern portion of Canada. If it was coming from there, then it would have to pass through multiple mountains and mountain ranges, so it'd pretty much be dissipated by the time it reached Washington State, right? I mean, just think about it. Washington State to New York to the northeastern coast of Canada. There's multiple mountains and mountain ranges in that way, right? So it should barely show in Washington State. Well, it did. It was detected in Washington State, very strong, around 1,500 to 2,000 amplitude count, which is just crazy if this is storm surf. So let's say even if this is oceanic waves and storm surf causing these vibrations, no matter if that even is the case, this is unprecedented. Definitely. Now, observations show that neither the air pressure nor its change nor storm can be the cause of the microseisms. The result of the calculations is that no possible disturbance near the surface of the ocean can be propagated through the water to the bottom, but that the energy of the waves transferred by the surf to the coast is large enough to cause the movements. But the main thing I wanted you guys to focus on, the main thing is how it says. Now, keep this in mind for the rest of the video. In Western America, the higher folded mountains nearly prevent the propagation of the movements by reflecting and refracting a large part of the energy. Remember that? Right there, please. Okay, so I have not bought this article, but we can get the gist of it just by reading the abstract. And plus, we got the most important part that I wanted to take from this publication anyways. Now, notice how it said large mountains nearly block and dissipate these wave microseisms. So if this long-distance vibration I discovered is being caused by what this publication describes as low-pressure systems and large oceanic waves slapping the coast dead on, then why do seismic stations in New York feel these vibrations just as strong, as almost just as strong, as in Washington State? Also, why do seismic stations that reside just behind large mountains and mountain ranges feel this just as strong? Didn't they say that these microseisms are mostly dissipated by large mountains or mountain ranges? So why are these microseisms so strong if this is the cause? That is why I have not come to a conclusion as of yet. Maybe someday, but right now it remains a mystery since every theory I have has some major problems standing against it. Now, I was going to say that this caused the oceanic wave theory. I was going to say that was the thing. But the fact that it says mountains and mountain ranges, large ones, can pretty much block these microseisms really made me scratch my head when we're obviously seeing it behind the mountain ranges. I have no definitive answer yet, so let me know what you think this could be by commenting below. Remember, I try to reply to as many comments that I have time to. Now, why don't we go take a look real quick at some data? Here we are at UNAVCO.org. Now we're about to take a quick look at the tilt meters for Yellowstone. Now this long distance vibration does show slightly stronger at Yellowstone, but does appear to be coming from the eastern section of the United States, but it's very hard to tell, to see a definitive epicenter, guys. It seems like to be coming from a large landmass. I mean, it's very hard to determine an epicenter. However, the tilt meters from UNAVCO do show this event the best at Yellowstone. So let's take a look at some of the tilt data. Remember, tilt meters record the tiny, slight changes in slope and record the change in microradians. 1 microradian is equivalent to 0.00006 degrees. That is extremely tiny. Remember to always look at chart labels or you will be deceived. So of course these movements are not major, but they still are slightly changing the slope of the ground where each instrument resides. Now this long distance vibration, which as you will see in the video, was felt from the west coast to the east coast. Started at about 13 UTC, November 22nd, 2018, and ended at about 14 UTC, November 23rd, 2018. That is almost a whole day. So if you have felt any strange vibrations on Thanksgiving, please let me know. We will get to the actual seismic data in a minute, but first, let's check the tilt meters. Alright, real quick, let's go to Norris. Borehole 205 in Norris, real quick. Let's see, do I have PB on here? Yes, I do. If you guys want to know the locations of the stations, if it'll let me zoom in, Borehole 205 in Norris should be right around the same area as... Oh, whoops, wrong area. Whoopsie doopsie. Here, borehole 950, I believe borehole 205 is pretty much right near there. Borehole 207 is near Madison. And up here is borehole 945, which I'm not going to use that one right now. Borehole 944 is down here, and borehole 208 is up here by LKWY on the northern tip of Yellowstone Lake. Let's go back. Here's borehole 205 near Norris, at least that's what it says. You can obviously see, remember, at about 13 UTC, November 22nd, which is exactly right here, guys. That's exactly right here. You see a sharp increase of activity. You see that? And it still is occurring just a little bit. These vibrations are still occurring. But I'm focusing on the main sequence that lasted from 13 UTC, November 22nd to 14 UTC, November 23rd. So check that out. You can see it on both the X and Y tilt plots. Let's go down. Go down, go down. Here's the past 30 days. This was the past 7 days. Here's the past 30 days. You can see how quickly the event emerged right there. And here's the other event that I talked about not too long ago. Look at that, guys. That's pretty crazy. Now let's go back. All right, let's look at Madison River, borehole 207. You can see a sharp increase. Here's the middle of the 22nd. 0 UTC on the 22nd would be right here. So you can see this increased at the same exact time. Notice it is showing the same event that the seismic stations are showing. Let me go down here. You can obviously see. Look at how sharp of an increase that is. Almost rivals the one that we saw in late October that I talked about recently. But this one on the seismic stations was definitely stronger. So, let's go back. Let's go down to borehole 208 at Yellowstone Lake. And once again, looky. Around the middle of the 22nd, around 13 UTC, we see an increase, and then it ends right around 14 UTC on the 23rd. But it hasn't really ended. It is still going on a little bit, but not as strong as we saw right here. This is the past 7 days. Let's go down. This is the past 30 days. Again, there's the other event that I talked about in late October. And here's this event right here. Very interesting, guys. Let's go forward to the other tilt meters. Borehole 944, which is on the southern section of West Thumb Lake. You can see around 13 UTC, an obvious increase. Kind of dies down a little bit quicker on this tilt meter. Don't know why, but still, look at that. You can still see it. Big sharp increase right at 13 UTC. Around 14 UTC on the 23rd, it starts to end. Here's the past 30 days. Let's go back, and then now let's look at borehole 950 at Norris. And once again, at 13 UTC on November 22nd, you can see a sharp increase at the same time. Check that out. So all the tilt meters, pretty much all the tilt meters at Yellowstone are showing this weird long distance vibration, which is theorized to be caused by massive oceanic waves, but that theory has some major problems to it, which we will get to in just a bit. Very interesting. So you saw an obvious increase in energy at the same exact time that the seismic stations detected this, right? Well, just for fun, why don't we check the MBMG, the Montana Bureau of Mines and Geology, in conjunction with Montana Tech, seismic helicorder page. Remember, this vibration carries some very low frequencies, dominant around 0.1 Hz to 0.3 Hz. But it does have some insane amount of power for how low the frequencies are. Since the frequencies are so low, it is only going to be shown on seismic stations that record all frequencies, including those that record below 1 Hz. Now, some seismic stations do not record below 1 Hz, but most of them do. That is why broadband stations are best for seeing this vibration. Also, this is most likely not volcanic in nature, guys, unless something is seriously wrong with our outer core right under North America. Another bit of info is that this vibration is mainly appearing in North America, with some appearances on seismic stations in northern Canada and southern Guatemala. Guatemala resides just south of Mexico. So in all seriousness, this is a long distance tremor with dominant frequencies between 0.1 and 0.3 Hz, with amplitudes registering around 1,500 to 2,500 in some places, almost 3,000 amplitude count in New York. Whew! Even if this is caused by oceanic forces, even if it is, this is still unprecedented. So let's go to the recent helicorder displays. Let me see here. Let me try to refresh this a little bit. So here we are at the recent helicorder displays for the MBMG network, which is network MB for the seismic data. Real quick, I just want to look at the most recent, which is right here. Here is November 26, 2018. It is still occurring, guys. Still occurring. Pretty much constant since this event occurred on the 22nd. So let's do MSO first. LPZ. 60 minutes per line. You can see an obvious increase right here. You notice that? Let's go back up. See that increase right around 13 UTC on November 22nd, 2018. Let's go back. Let's go to November 23rd, the next day. And you can see right here, here's the middle of the event. And then let's go down and you can see right around 14 UTC it calms down, but it is still ongoing. Ever since this event occurred on November 22nd, 23rd, it is still constantly vibrating, but at a much lower level though. So let's go back. Let's do RLMT for Red Lodge, Montana, just real quick. I just want to take a quick look. Let's do broadband this time. Let's do the broadband. Let's see for the 22nd. Those are almost normal microseisms, but check out how large they get. You notice the increase? Look at that. You can't even see anything anymore. Look at that. And again, right around 13 UTC, it really picks up momentum again. And let's go back. Let's go to Red Lodge, Montana for the 23rd for broadband vertical. And you can see the beginning of the event on RLMT right here. Look at that. And then it starts to calm down. But it's still ongoing though. And as of the most recent, here is today, November 26, 2018. All right, so it still is occurring ever since this occurred. So I don't know how it could last that long, but let's go down. Let's go to BPMT, which is right here. Let's go to the 22nd. Normal microseisms in the background, and then as we go throughout the day, you can see an obvious increase. Notice how the microseisms grow exponentially. Look at that. See how wavy they are? Now let's go back to the beginning of the day, and let's go back to later. That is because this station records below 1 Hertz, and these have dominant frequencies of 0.1 to 0.3 Hertz. And again, here's on the 23rd, November 23rd, 2018, 0 UTCs right here. Again, around 14 UTC, that's when it starts to calm down, but it is still occurring. Let's go back. Let's go to CRMT just real quick. Let's click November 22nd, 2018. Beginning of the day, there's barely anything, and then look how strong it gets. Look at this. Look at that, guys. Look at how strong it gets from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. And then let's go to the 23rd. I'm just showing you this, guys. And, oh, something happened to the seismic chart here. Don't know what happened, but it cut out. Here's November 23rd, 2018. You can obviously see the same event is being picked up. Now, real quick, let's be done with Montana, and let's just real fast go to RSSD. This station resides in the IU network in the on the western portion of South Dakota. You can see an obvious increase in microseisms, but way too strong, guys. I mean, even if these are ocean waves, this still should not be this strong and go this far. I don't know what is going on, guys, but I have some theories, and you know some of the theories, so we're just going to take a look at some of the data, guys. Let's go to the 23rd real fast. And here's this. Check that out. And there on the 23rd, it starts to die down around 14 UTC. So all the timings and all the seismic charts are consistent. So as usual, most seismic stations on the MBMG helicorder page, link below under resources, detected this event. Now, that was not the most important aspect of this analysis. Remember, this is only preliminary analysis, guys. I could spend months on this research, and I probably will. But I'd like to prove one of my theories, but many of them have so many problems in the way. For example, again, if this really is caused by storms on either the west or east coast, why does it show just as strong on the opposite coast? Well, almost just as strong, maybe minus 500 amplitude count or so. Why is it being detected directly behind large mountains and mountain ranges when they should almost completely dissipate the microseisms? I have no clue. We do know weather has gotten almost 1,000% worse, pretty much, in the past 200 years, but I highly doubt it has to do with global warming or climate change. Something else is going on, and I believe I know what could be causing the crazy weather. The sun. I think there's a simple answer to everything crazy that is going on in the world. All the increase in craziness, all the increase in bad weather, earthquakes, volcanoes, disasters, tsunamis. It all comes down to the sun. Now, that is just my theory, and it would explain a lot, especially the recent interest the professionals have about the corona of our sun. Even quietly, but not secretly, creating the most advanced spacecraft humanity has ever built. They built it in less than a decade using billions of dollars. But why are they in such a rush to reach our sun? I admit we should try to touch it eventually, but they built it extremely fast given the resources and time at hand. Now, I'm getting off topic, and that subject is for another day. Now, let's move on to the seismic data for 7 broadband stations across the country. So here we are in the seismic program Swarm. We are about to look at 7 select seismic stations from across the United States, from Washington State all the way to New York. Now here are the locations of the 7 seismic stations I picked, all in the US network, all will be broadband. Please refer back to this section of the video if you have any questions about the location of each station. If you wish to have exact geographical coordinates, comment below with detail please. The part to this section will be listed under parts in the description box below. NLWA is in Washington, ELK is in Nevada, RLMT, you know where that one is, in Montana near Yellowstone, CBKS in Kansas, JFWS in Wisconsin, NHSC in South Carolina, and BINY in New York. So we kind of have a grid pattern across the entire United States. So now you know the location of the 7 seismic stations I picked. NLWA resides on the west coast, and BINY resides farthest on the east coast in New York. Here I have BINY, as you can see right here, and up here I have NLWA. Now before we start looking at all of these stations, please pay attention. I want to clear a few things up. First off, since this vibration's effects is best seen with helicorders, as you can see here, let me go to the beginning. You can see it's not as strong, but then you go through the day. Look, you can see an increase right around 13 UTC. You can see an obvious increase in background micro-seisms, and then it starts to die down around 14 UTC on the 23rd. And remember, this is swarm, so I can do this. Look at that. Or I can do this. Ha ha ha, yeah. Everyone's always so paranoid about them making the helicorders at Yellowstone. Oh my god, they're getting so small. They're trying to hide something. You know, I admit the professionals, maybe would try to hide something. I wouldn't be surprised. But, guys, it doesn't matter if they make the helicorders bigger or smaller at all. Because guess what? It doesn't matter at all because you could do the same thing yourself. Really, though. I mean, it doesn't ever change how the data... it changes how the data is shown, but it doesn't change the data itself. The amplitude counts remain the same. The frequencies remain the same. It just changes how the data is shown. Look at that. Notice? Watch. See, I can make it smaller. Look at that. This is called amplitude scale, guys. This is amplitude scale, and it changes with large activity. So I'm going to just set it right about there. You can see it's not as strong up here. Increases right down here. And then calms down around 14 UTC on the 23rd. But again, I want to clear a few things up. Again, since this vibration's effects is best seen with helicorders, though is still detected well on seismic plots, such as spectrograms, each helicorder you see for each station will hold 60 minutes per line, instead of the usual 30 minutes per line you are used to. Second, I want to discover the dominant frequency of this event. Now, I already know what the dominant frequencies are, but for presentation, I will first check the amplitude, in other words power, of these vibrations on the seismogram plots for one coast to the other coast using NLWA on the west coast and BINY on the east coast. I will also check the dominant frequencies using a spectral plot for these 2 stations. Once this is completed, I will move on and check this event on all 7 stations. I have analyzed this event much and am still trying to define a reasonable epicenter. This has continually proven to be nearly impossible. Obviously nothing is impossible, but it sure seems like it. So now let's check the dominant frequencies on the spectral plots and the amplitude counts for each coast. First, we are going to start with NLWA here. We're going to be right in the midst of it right here. Okay, so let's first check the amplitude count. Check this out. Around 2000. Notice these oscillations. Around 2000. Let's see. Does it go any higher? It doesn't really go any higher. 2000, about 1500, 2000. So the main strength of this vibration on NLWA, which is in Washington State on the west coast, is around 1500 to 2000. Looks like I almost went to 2300. So about 1500 to 2500 amplitude count, which that's pretty strong for any background vibration, guys. That's a good size. Okay, so let's check the spectral plot real quick. I want to log power, log frequency. Oh no, I do want to log the frequency. And notice that 0.1 hertz to about 0.3 hertz. Right here 0.1. Here's 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then here's 1 hertz right here. Here's 2 hertz. Notice you don't see anything. The dominant frequencies are 0.1 to 0.3 hertz. So, we have found out that it's about 1500 amplitude count to 2500 amplitude count on NLWA. Let's go to BINY. This is on the opposite side of the country in New York. We obviously know that this event is showing up on all seismic stations across the country, pretty much. All broadband stations, any station actually that's showing frequencies below 1 hertz. Again, because some seismic stations do not detect frequencies below 1 hertz, but most of them do. But this, let's detect what we can detect. Okay, look at that. 3,000. Oh my god. Okay, I'm going to check this. 1925 on the 22nd. Let me see if I can move this up. 1925 on the 22nd. 1925 on the 20th. Here's NLWA. We're back right here. 1925. Does it show the same event? 1925, 22nd. 1925 on the 22nd. Let's see. Not really. Not really. Almost though. It almost looks like it's showing the same pattern, but not really. Okay, but it is reaching stronger than on the West Coast, but as you will notice right here, keep this in mind for the rest of the video. That's about 3,000 amplitude count. That's about, oh, never mind, 4,000. I did not notice that. Wow. Okay, so on the East Coast, it goes up to about 4,000 amplitude count, which is pretty strong for this event. So remember that, 4,000. Now let's go back to NLWA, which is on the West Coast. It reaches about 2,000. So let's say half the strength. So on the West Coast is feeling it half as strong as the East Coast. But still, if these were oceanic microseisms, shouldn't the mountain ranges from the East Coast going all the way to Washington State on the West Coast, shouldn't it block it? Just like the publication said? Shouldn't it? It should. I believe it really should, but it's not for some reason. It's only blocking half of it. It said usually it dissipates almost all of it, but it's only blocking half of it. Look at that. And again, we're just going to look at the dominant frequencies real quick. Again, 0.1 hertz to about 0.3 hertz. Wow. Okay, so this is the same event. It's showing up half as strong on the West Coast, with it showing up pretty much, so I'm guessing the epicenter is towards the East Coast somewhere, near New York or something. And coincidentally, that is where a large storm was hitting during this time. We will look at that in just a bit, but still, this is very weird. Even if this is caused by a storm. So we have discovered that this strange background vibration, which can also be labeled as very strong microseisms, has dominant frequencies around 0.1 to 0.3 hertz on the spectrogram and spectral plots. We also see this microseism event carries amplitude strength around 1500 to 2500 on the West Coast and 3000 to 4000 on the East Coast on the seismogram plots, showing this event was extremely strong in regards to ground motion for how low the frequencies are. You understand what I'm saying? It's very weird that it's this strong at all, no matter how strong the storm is. Now, I'm about to show all 7 stations that I picked from around the nation. Now, remember how these stations, you can see them right here. So let's go back. Now, since this event has dominant frequencies between 0.1 and 0.3 hertz, I will set a 1 hertz low pass filter to every station I show. Now, pay very close attention. It may sound confusing, but it really isn't. I am not caring about earthquakes or surface noise or anything else right now besides these microseisms. Since I am setting a 1 hertz low pass filter, that will make sure that no frequencies above 1 hertz are shown. Basically, this will allow us to see these vibrations only and nothing else. There are 3 types of filters used by seismologists to filter data. I used to not understand them, but now I realize just how important they are. The 3 seismic filters are low pass, high pass, and band pass. Now, a low pass filter, for example, set to 1 hertz, will only show activity that occurred at 1 hertz frequency level or below. I rarely use low pass filters except for rare events such as these. I use high pass filters a lot though. Opposite of low pass filters, which only show frequencies below what you selected, high pass filters show all activity above what you selected. For example, a 1 hertz high pass filter will not show any frequencies below 1 hertz. A low pass filter with 1 hertz will not show any frequencies above 1 hertz. You get what I'm saying? Get the drift? Coincidentally, a 1 Hz high-pass filter is what the University of Utah uses to create their fake SHZ channels. Now, a bandpass filter is very, very simple to understand. A bandpass filter, which actually I never used but might have to use someday, is simply a filter that filters out all frequencies that you do not want. For example, if I wanted to see a specific frequency range of 5 Hz to 10 Hz, and that's it, then I would have to use a bandpass filter. I would not be able to use low pass. I would not be able to use high pass. I would have to use a bandpass filter. Now, low pass deletes frequencies above. High pass deletes frequencies beneath. Bandpass allows a specific frequency range. Starting to understand now? It actually is very simple to understand once you get the hang of it. But let's move on to analyzing all of the 7 stations. Again, I will use 60 minutes per line for the helicorders and a 1 Hz low pass filter for all of the plots. Alright, let's start. First, we are going to start with NLWA. I have already analyzed this event. You can see it here. Actually, I'm not going to do, let's see, 24 hours. So this is 1 whole day. I'm going to do 72 just to get a good look. And you can see an obvious increase right there, right in the middle. You see that? Look at that. Okay, so the amplitude count was about 2,000. Remember, this is NLWA on the West Coast. We need a low pass 1 Hz filter. The maximum frequency is 1 Hz. Filters that out. That is not what I want. Okay, forgot I gotta do that. There we go. Here is what this event looks like on a spectrogram, but I forgot I am going to do, let's do 8 Hz for the spectrogram. Maximum of 8 Hz, so you can see this better at the bottom. Here are these micro-seisms on NLWA on the West Coast. The West Coast, again, is feeling it half as strong as the East Coast. Look at that. Up here, it was weaker, but notice as I go through the day, it increases. Check out how it increases, guys. See, it reaches its peak right about there. And look at how strong that is. Wow. Let me zoom out all. Let's see how much I can zoom out. Yeah, here it is. Let me zoom in. Look at that. Very interesting. Okay, next we're going to do, let's see, we're going to do elk, which was in, that was in Nevada, right? Let's do 48. Okay, I think that's better. I think I will just do that from now on. Okay, you can see an obvious increase right here, guys. Check this out. So again, this is in Nevada. And what we're going to do is we are going to persistent rescale off low pass 1 Hz filter, again, with a maximum frequency range of 8 Hz on the spectrogram. Press OK. And let's zoom out just a little bit. Here are these micro-seisms, which are theorized to be caused by waves. And actually, they are showing 4,000 amplitude count in Nevada. So Nevada is showing it pretty much just as strong as the East Coast. So if it is a storm near the East Coast or in Canada, how is it showing just as strong? And plus, how is it passing through so many mountain ranges? How is that even possible? Look at that. It is showing, you see how you can barely see it right there? And then it increases. Look at that, guys. Look at that. This is in Nevada. I actually did not know that it showed this strong in Nevada. So what is going on? What is this being caused by? Is it really ocean waves, or is there something else going on? Because the ocean waves theory is starting to look a little thin. Alright, let's go to RLMT, which is in Montana. Obviously, let's do 60 minutes. 48 hours, okay. Now again, let's set 8 Hz for the maximum on the spectrogram. Do a 1 Hz low pass filter, so all that it's going to be showing is this vibration. Alright, let's check it out. Zoom out a little bit. Around 3,000, 2,000 amplitude count, 3,000, 3,000, reaches 4,000 near the end. Okay, so it is showing a little bit weaker. Nevada showed it a little bit stronger. That's very interesting. But notice, let's look at the spectrogram once again. Let me turn this off and go back. And notice you can see an obvious increase in these background micro-seisms. Again, this is RLMT in Montana. Remember, you can, in Swarm, you can change this however you want. And notice, right here, let's go to the amplitude count. Look at the amplitude count while I increase this. Notice how it doesn't change the data. See that? It never changes the data. The amplitude scale only changes how the helicorder is shown. So whenever you see that on the online charts, they're not trying to hide anything, guys. If they wanted to hide something, they would take down the monitors, which I hope they never do. I'd be very pissed. Very, very pissed. But check this out. 1,000 amplitude count, 1,500, 2,000, 3,000. Here's the spectrogram of this event. Once again, very weird looking event. Very weird. Now let's go to let's go to Kansas. Here's the one in Kansas. Let's go to 60 minutes, 48 hours. Press OK. Now let's do, remember, 8 Hertz is the maximum frequency range of the spectrogram. Turn off persistent rescale and do a 1 Hertz low pass filter. Now remember, guys, I've only been doing this type of seismic analysis for about 4 to 5 months now. That's it. So let's check this out. Notice you can see an obvious increase around the same exact time again. The maximum amplitude count of this event in Kansas, let's see, 3,000, 3,000. Do we see any 4,000? 4,000, 4,000, 4,000. Do we see any 4,000, 4,000, 4,000? And no, we don't see any 4,000. So it showed weaker in Kansas than it did in Nevada. Okay. You do realize Kansas is closer to the East Coast than Nevada is, but Nevada showed it stronger? It must have to do with the subsoil, just like that publication stated. But still, do you know how many mountain ranges it has to pass through even to get to the West Coast, if it is generated from the East Coast? I don't know. Very weird, guys. It's a very weird situation. Here is the spectrogram of the event. Notice how, let's go back. Notice how when it was barely anything at all, notice how it increases around 13 UTC. That's when it really starts to pick up speed. And then it reaches its peak. Kansas did not feel it as strong as some of the other stations. Now let's check JFWS, which is in Wisconsin, guys. This one's in Wisconsin. Let me pull this up a little bit. All right, once again, we're going to do 60 minutes per line, 48 hours in the helicorder. And what we're going to do is we're going to go up here, persistent rescale off, 8 Hertz is the maximum for the spectrogram, and then do a 1 Hertz low pass filter. As you can see, once again, there's an obvious increase in background micro-seisms at around 1,300. It's happening once again, guys. And then remember, this was on Thanksgiving. And let's see, it was very weak up here. Notice about 500 amplitude count. Notice how it increases exponentially. There's 3,000, 4,000. Okay, Wisconsin saw 4,000 amplitude count. So it did see it pretty strong. Okay, so wow, look at that. Look at some of these oscillations, guys. Look at that. Almost perfectly spaced. Not exactly, but almost. In every sense of the term, this is a harmonic episode, but it's not a harmonic tremor caused by volcanic processes. I know that for a fact. But look at that. Sinusoidal waveform patterns. Okay, now let's go to the spectrogram real quick. Of course, you can see it weaker up here in the beginning of the day, and as the day goes on, it reaches its peak, gets very strong. Look at that. And if you guys want any images of this, please just let me know. I could send you some helicorders that I can just make real quick. Look at that, man, and it increases pretty well, too, in the Wisconsin chart. Look at that. Man, look at how much you can increase this. That's why I love swarms so much. You could just manipulate the data. You don't actually manipulate the data itself. You just manipulate how the data is shown in so many different ways. Look what I can do. Check this out. 120, 120. Look at that. 120 minutes per line with 120 hours in this whole area. Yeah. It's pretty crazy what you can do on these programs. Here's NHSC, which I do not believe I have shown yet. This is in South Carolina. Okay, let's go back. Let's do 60 and 48. Press OK. Let's go down here. You can see obvious increase in background activity during the same exact time. Persistent rescale off. 8 Hertz is the maximum for the spectrogram with a 1 Hertz low pass filter added. As you can see, let me zoom out a little bit. As you can see, 500 amplitude count. Let's go all the way down. 3,000, 3,000, 2,000, 2,000 amplitude count. So it did not show as strong. So South Carolina saw it almost just as strong as the West Coast did. So that's pretty interesting. Let's go down to the end of the day. And I don't know why it did not end here. Well, of course, this vibration has not ended yet. It's still going on, guys. But it did die down quite a good amount once this event ended around 13 UTC on the 23rd. So it should have been right here. We should have seen a decrease. But for some reason, South Carolina is the only station that did not see a decrease. It just continued. That's very weird. And you can see it, obviously, right here. Very low frequencies between 0.1 and 0.3 hertz. And you can see it increase and reaches its peak, and it's still ongoing for South Carolina. Let's check the last one, BINY, which we did look at earlier. Let's go to 60 minutes, 48 hours, press OK. Again, persistent rescale off. 8 hertz is the maximum for the spectrogram with a 1 hertz low pass filter. All of this makes sure that the only thing that we are seeing is these weird background microseisms. Once again, around the same time, around 1300 UTC, you see a sharp increase in activity. And then around 1400 UTC, you see a sharp decrease in activity. Just like every other single chart in the United States. Every single chart, guys. Every single one. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. You zoomed out. You see amplitude count. See about 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. Okay, so the East Coast did see it the strongest. Except Nevada saw it almost just as strong as the East Coast did. Isn't that weird? Look at that, guys. This is some very interesting stuff. Very interesting. Look at that. I find that very weird. I'm loving this stuff, guys. I'm so thankful for these seismic programs because I've been able to learn so much more and to be actually able to accurately and responsibly monitor Yellowstone. Man, because trust me, if you just go online and look at the online web recorders and say, oh, magma intrusion, oh, explosion, then you're going to be wrong a lot. That's why you need seismic programs like these, and people will say, oh, you don't need it. Yeah, you do. It's very easy. And trust me, it's very quick and very easy to learn. I mean, maybe the causes of certain events isn't as easy, but actually finding the seismic data and actually analyzing it and discovering their dominant frequencies, their dominant amplitudes, how strong they were, where are they occurring, it's very easy. I just wish more and more people would actually use this seismic program Swarm. I really wish they would, but I barely ever see people using this except to live stream things on YouTube. That's it. Just live streaming. Well, I never, ever use Swarm to live stream seismic data. I usually like to look at past seismic data from the IRIS Data Select URL Builder. That's where I get a lot of my data from. So again, around 4,000 amplitude count, dominant frequencies of 0.1 to 0.3 hertz. Very interesting, guys. Yep, look at that. So it did show on every single chart, pretty much. So that was pretty dang interesting. Again, what could this be? It seems contrary to what I thought, that this time this event is a little bit stronger on the East Coast than the West Coast. The low frequency range of 0.1 Hz to 0.3 Hz, along with the 4 to 8 seconds of waveform oscillations, seems to indicate this is related to oceanic forces such as very large waves slapping any given coast. But how could that be when it traveled much too far and appeared on both sides of a mountain range when the publications have said that it is not possible? Of course, more research will be conducted, but now you understand the predicament I'm in. The ocean waves theory is very compelling and may be the truth, but it has some serious problems. Since we have now looked at a lot of the data, and trust me, this amount of data pales in comparison to the actual amount of seismic data, let's take a look and see if surface winds during this time period were indeed battering the coasts with large waves. Remember, in order for such strong microseisms to be produced by ocean waves, the surface winds must be hitting any given coast pretty much dead on, perpendicular to the coast, unless wave heights are just unprecedented. Here we are at earth.noschool.net. Now I use this a lot, but I usually use it for the chem section, which allows you to monitor sulfur dioxide emissions at the surface. But that is not why I'm here today. The current setting is November 22nd, 2018 at 9 UTC, just before the long distance vibration picked up momentum. You can see the settings I have right here. Let's go back down. This is the setting you will most likely want to use to look at these wind patterns. This shows the speed and direction of the surface winds in any given location. A storm with high wind speeds directly hitting a coast will of course cause massive waves. But check this out, from what I can see there are no winds hitting the west coast dead on. They are just a tiny bit, but they aren't very strong to create such an event like this. They are pretty much moving parallel to the west coast. The east coast is seeing surface winds coming from the coast and moving out to sea. The only possibility at all would be this large storm in northeastern Canada right here. Now let me go through the time period real quick and we will talk at the end. Remember, right here is just before the vibration started. So let's go forward just a little bit. Remember, keep your eye right here. And right now is when the micro-seisms started. Right now. Boom. And as it goes, it seems to increase and hit the coast. And it's approaching. And remember, the micro-seisms are hitting their peak right now. So again, this is right where it's hitting its peak. This is when the micro-seisms are the strongest. But it doesn't make much sense because the storm's starting to die down. But it seems like the micro-seisms started to die down after this storm started to die down. Know what I'm trying to say? Here, the micro-seisms are still going strong at 3 UTC on November 23rd, but the storm is starting to dissipate. So but there are winds right here hitting the coast dead on, but we would see a different sequence. It wouldn't be the same exact sequence. Look at this. And the storm's starting to move away. Again, the winds are battering, but it's not that strong though. And there are winds on the east coast, but they're going away from the coast. So, since they show strongest on the east coast, but half as strong on the west coast, then it's suggestive that whatever this is coming from the eastern section of the United States. Anywhere in the eastern section. I mean, just look at the United States map and cut it in half. It'd be the eastern section. I don't even know where, because it's very weird. But still, Nevada saw this event pretty strong too. So what could this be? And on all the seismic stations across the country, it pretty much increased at the same exact time. And then decreased at the same exact time. So that would suggest to us that it is the same exact event, right? Now let's go through again. Here's 9 UTC, November 23rd. The micro-seisms are just now starting to calm down. Here is now when they're ending. But look at this. We have stronger winds battering the coast dead on right here. But this is when the micro-seisms are ending. Look at this. Look at this. More. Okay. This is crazy. And the storm's pretty much gone. So these micro-seisms did coincide with this storm. Pretty much. Almost. But then how come we're not seeing any micro-seisms from any of these other events? Winds are battering the coast right here. Probably large waves too. Same with right here. And same with right here. I mean, of course, the micro-seisms did not calm down completely. But still. Could this really be the cause? Could the storm really be the cause? But the thing is, above all, the publication is the main thing. It said that it cannot go behind mountain ranges. I mean, of course it can a little bit, but it said it dissipates most of the energy. So I'm still scratching my head. How can a storm up here cause 4,000 amplitude count of micro-seisms all the way down here in Nevada? Do you know how far of a distance that is? Even showing a little bit down in Mexico and Guatemala. How is that possible? You know, I'm pretty sure the people who wrote that publication in 1931 would be crazed about this event. Because even if this is ocean waves, which I'm starting to think it's not, could be, I don't know, because there's some major problems to it, but even if this is, it's very unprecedented, guys. So again, that was definitely a strong storm, but this event still makes no sense regardless of the power this storm contained. Remember, vibrations from waves can spread across very great distances, but are greatly dissipated when hitting large mountains or mountain ranges. But this event shows around 1500 to 2500 amplitude count at station NLWA, which is all the way on the west coast of the USA, all the way right here. How is this possible? Do you know how many large mountains and mountain ranges this vibration had to pass through if it was coming from the storm from here all the way through here? I don't care how strong this storm was, it should not register this strong, this far away. So is this theory worthless? Possibly. Let me know what you think below. Okay, so we took a look at this long distance vibration. In 1931, and even in recent publications, many people are aware of strong vibrations that can be created by large low-pressure systems, large waves slapping the coasts, or both. However, there are obvious limitations to how far and how strong these vibrations can travel. Recent events, including the strongest one I have seen that occurred on Thanksgiving, are really enigmatic, meaning they are very puzzling. This would all be said and done with if the characteristics followed the normal storm and wave patterns. But how the heck did this show so strong behind mountain ranges thousands of miles away? How did this vibration travel so far, passing through multiple mountain ranges to NLWA? The only possibility during this time period would have been that large storm in northeast Canada. But again, this should not have been felt this strong on the west coast of the United States, more than 3,000 miles away behind multiple mountain ranges. Again, regardless of what this is caused by, this theory is intriguing and may hold its weight. However, much more research is needed to discover why it appeared so strong. There must be another factor involved that has not been seen. The east coast of the USA seems to have had an increase in seismicity the past couple of years, so maybe these vibrations are slowly destabilizing the eastern edge of the North American plate? I don't know. I have no idea. Let me know what you think below. This is a weird event no matter what it's caused by, guys. Please go to my channel and check my recent videos I have published, including the new features on my website. The link to my website is below in the description box right under my email address. Remember, my site is always being added to and is a work in progress. However, it already has an insane amount of information for those who are brand new to amateur seismology. Also, please check out Scott's new channel, the NW Geology Guy. He has great content and his channel is brand new, so please go support him if you wish. Keep an eye out for another video soon, and always remember the truth is considered hate or fear to those who hate or fear the truth. God bless and be safe in this turbulent and crazy world. Ben Ferraiuolo, signing off. See you later, Old Faithful and Upper Geyser Basin.